About to get out of here. Down to the last wire. Down to the last wire.
Yeah. Top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Monday. All right, beautiful people, divine blessings, blessings. It is Monday, June the 6th, 2022, day 128 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets under the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1146. Today, we're picking back up in the Oahspe on page 187. And if we get done in time today, we'll pick up in the meditation book on page 176. All right, let's get started. Father, we thank you for another day waking us up. We bright and early at our post, getting ready to go. All right, y'all. Let's do it. Chapter 17, Oahspe. Top part. Page 187 at the top. On the way to Zaredho, Fragapati and his host in the Avalanza were joined by a ship of 1,000 million explorers from the north regions, 1,000 times farther than the North Star of the 7th magnitude of light, even 3 higher than Fragapati. Kutu, the chief and commander of the expedition, greeted in the sign Jehovah's name, the which Fragapati answered, and by certain signals the ship approached and made fast, the Isinars of the twain singing and playing the same anthem, 5 million voices and half as many trumpeters. Then Kutu came near to Fragapati, saluting, and the host stood in line so that they might hear what was said. So after due ceremonies and acquainting each other who they were, whence they came, and such like, then spake Kutu, saying, I see thou hast thy ship ballasted with a north magnet. Fragapati said, This is but a 5 years' dawn, and I teach my hosts how to ballast that they may better read the maps and roadways and stars and suns. Of these, my hosts, 500 million have become capable of being delivered into Etheria, save in cosmology. I am providing them that when they shall have ascended, they may not be lost in the ethereal worlds or be dependent on others. Mom, shalom, shalom. Audrey, shalom. Auntie, Belinda Brown, Grand Rising. Verse 4. Kutu said, What is the length of this serpent? Fragapati said, 7 1/8 Hoi Tumu. And Hoi Tumu has reference letter E after it. So we hop over to page 236 and read E. E says about 1,500 million miles, the length of the solar phalanx, 1882 edition. For the interpretation of this figure to be even close to accurate, it would have to be the distance from the sun to Uranus, or about 1.86 billion miles. The editor would have had to not consider Neptune at 2.79 billion miles as a planet, but Neptune was discovered in 1846, and Pluto, a questionable planet, in 1930. Rita, good morning. Alicia, hey girl, hey. Okay, back up to verse 4. I'll reread it. Kutu said, "What is the length of this serpent?" Fragapati said, 7 1/8 hoi tumu. And he asked Kutu what distance he had come from his home, and Kutu said, 1,412,832 and 2 hoi tumu. What time hath thy journey yet before thee? Kutu said, 500,000 years. Then Fragapati inquired how many star worlds Kutu had so far passed on his journey, and Kutu said, 20,000 star worlds we have passed, some smaller than this red star, and some 10,000 times larger. Some of them yet liquid balls of fire, some newly crusted over, some with atmosphere and water and earth and minerals not yet separated, but boiling, seething, whirling, some firm and just entering the age of Simu, and some old and worn out. And one we passed which had become barren as to living creatures and dissipated it before us, having invited thousands of millions of guests to witness the scene. Of atmospheric worlds, we have passed more than 90,000, some of them larger than the vortex of this red star, and capable of giving homes to 1,000,000 times 1,000,000 of inhabitants, and yet on many of them there were no people. Thus they discourse on the size and wonder of Jehovah's kingdoms, but their numbers and descriptions only the gods themselves could comprehend. They were so vast, and when they had about concluded, Kutu remarked, the mortal desireth to become a spirit, then his ambition is to become an Etherian, next an Orion, next a Nirvanian, next an Oetan, and then to travel in the surveys of magnitudes. But those ahead are still more surpassing in magnificence. Who then can approach the unapproachable, all highest? He who fashioned the plan of all creations. Who is there that is not swallowed up with devotion and awe of him who is ever present, that extendeth beyond all limit, our Father Jehovah. And back at all of that was verse 8. Back towards the middle, it said, but those ahead are still more surpassing in magnificence. After ahead, it has reference number 20, and the footnote at the bottom of the top says, those ahead still called us to hasten because the glories ahead are still passing in magnificence. Okay. Trina, hey girl, hey. Chapter 18. Shayla G. Great rising. When they drew near Zeredho, Kutu with his ship and host withdrew, duly saluting, and they sped on their journey. But Fragapati halted on the borders of Zeredho and landed 700 millions of his host, the others remaining aboard. And after aboard is reference letter F, which we flip to the end of the chapter on page 236. And it says, the number expressed seems inconsistent. Chapter 6, verses 8 through 9, and verse 19 state that there were 2,000 million Zeredhoians. Then in chapter 14, verse 6 through 7 states that 700 million Zeredhoians who love the light more would be Fragapati's traveling companions to Ipsioji. Consequently, he should have landed at least 1,300 million angels at Zeredho. The 700 million should have been the number remaining on board for Ipsioji. Okay. Verse 2, chapter 18. Again, the Avalanza put forth. Fragapati said, now will I visit Yantanti, Lord God of North Gautama, and see what he hath accomplished, and perchance he will accompany us to Ipsioji to see Hapacha, my well-beloved God of the west wind. Now when they came to the sea of Teva Wittich, they raised the Avalanza 50,000 miles for the benefit of Hoab. And after Hoab, it has a reference number 21, which says Hoab and his host. Now, when they came to the sea of Sitavawitich, they raised the Avalanza 50,000 miles for the benefit of Hoab, for here lieth the roadway of Thames, whither pass countless numbers of fleets filled with students in the dismembered warks belonging to the earth. Facebook went out. It's back. Okay. Wi-Fi. I really think at the beginning of the week they reset this hotel's Wi-Fi because it started going out, and then the kids, hey, if they're on the game, hey, is your Wi-Fi messing up? Okay, verse 4. Hold on, let me read through again. Now when they came to the sea of Sitavawitich, they raised the Avalanza 50,000 miles for the benefit of Hoab, for here lieth the roadway of Thames, whither pass countless numbers of fleets filled with students in the dismembered warks belonging to the earth. Here, the students learn the process of condensation and the process of dissolution of meteoric meteor meteoric, like meteors, meteoric stones, and small planets, such as a mortal could walk around one of them in a day. On the outer extreme of this sea, the nebula is in constant waves where the vortices play, condensing and bursting like whirlwinds on the earth or corporeal ocean. Here, Fragapati explained, saying, in this thou shalt behold the wisdom of Jehovah and the uniformity of his works. Here lieth the first belt away from the earth, capable of having nebula condensed into meteoric stones. All nebula laying nearer than this to the earth's surface is either attracted to the earth or repulsed from it. Compute therefore the distance of this belt from the earth, together with its density, and thou shalt find that this is the same distance that the warp belts are with the stars in the firmament of the size of the earth, and of its density and velocity. The first warp belt of the sun is, therefore, the place of its nearest planet. The second warp belt is the place of its next nearest planet, and so on. And these work belts are all graded in distances according as I have spoken. Jehovah hath said, two ways have I created for my mathematicians to prove my works. One is to measure that which is near at hand in order to determine that which is far off. The other is to observe that which is far off in order to determine that which is near. For since man could not measure the wark is WARK. For since man could not measure the wark belts of this world, I provided him with means to determine the wark belts of the sun, so that he might the better comprehend his own world, that man might find still further evidence of the earth's warp belts. I created the nearest one with different densities so that not every year on earth would be alike as to heat and cold. And in certain cycles of Dan, I condensed the first warp belts so that the sun seemeth to mortals as if in eclipse. For it is upon this belt that my cycles of Dan Ha give either light or darkness to mortals spiritually. Let man compute my times for his own profit. I created the first warp to gain in rotation faster than the earth, 1 year for every 11, so that when the warp hath made 12 of its own years, the earth shall have completed 11 years. Fragapati caused the Avalanza to be driven in amidst a forest of whirlwinds to illustrate and explain, so that the host might observe. He said, thou shalt perceive now that such stones as are condensed beneath the apex fall to the earth, whilst those ascending frequently rise toward the lighter plateau and explode to be attracted back within the warp belt. This belt compareth unto the cloud belt near the earth. Thither the wind currents make raindrops and snowflakes. Here the currents make the first nebulous formations that come under the name corpor. Whilst Fragapati was thus discoursing, the avalanche rocked to and fro, and many of the people perceived now more than ever the knowledge and power required by angels and gods to contend successfully with the elements. But the beauty and grandeur of these fountains, these fire spouts, and whirlwinds on fire, together with the roar and whistling of the flying stones, so enraptured Joab and his host that they could do naught but look and wonder at the glory thereof. Uncle Jack B. Grand Rising. For 7 days and 7 nights did Fragapati and his host travel in this warp belt, observing and studying these miniature worlds, creating and dissipating. And on the 8th day, the avalanche was lowered beneath the currents, and they sailed direct for the kingdom of Yatanti, Lord God of North Gautama, piloted by messengers well acquainted with the course. Okay. I'm sorry. I just saw this picture down at the bottom for plate 8. I've never paid attention to that before. Okay. But now, I'm sorry, no. But not being in much frequent frequented roadway, they encountered few ships or processions of other gods. Yatanti had been apprised of Fragapati's coming and had accordingly notified his kingdom and summoned 70 of his lords to his capital, which was named after himself. So Yatanti commanded his Otivan to be put in order and lighted, and having provided 500 Isinars in addition to his crew, together with his lords and 10,000 attendants, went forth to the borders of Hagak, 1,000 miles, to meet Fragapati. But lo and behold, the Otivan was only as small was only as a small boat. Hold on. But lo and behold, the Otivan was only as a small boat is to a ship when compared to the Avalanza. And accordingly, when they approached each other, Fragapati caused the front of the Avalanza to be opened, and at his place the Otivan entered within the walls and was made fast. And the hosts of the Otivan came out and were received with great joy by Fragapati and his people. Chapter 19. 1,000 miles north of the northern line of the sun on the earth, in the middle betwixt the east and the west front of North Gautama, and from the earth upward and without intervening space, 500 miles had Yatanti founded his kingdom, and hither it was that Fragapati came to see him. 500 miles westward lay Ipsioji, extending north and south 200 miles, where reigned the good faithist Hapacha, styled god of the west wind. After the Avalanza reached Yatanti's capital and the host duly landed in the lower heaven, Yatanti ascended his throne, and after due ceremonies of welcome and thanksgiving, and with music rendering praise to the All High, Yatanti proclaimed recreation for 3 days and 3 nights. Then Fragapati to him, Then spake Fragapati to him, saying, I am glad of this, because I desire to hear the story of thy adventures and of thy successes in this kingdom, for thy record must also be my record, to be taken with us at the end of this dawn to heaven above. Joab and his host shall also hear thy words. Yatanti replied, what have I done? What I have done, I have done. Nevertheless, he who hath built great kingdoms may find little to admire in a small one. Fragapati said, I have seen old men who dotted more, I'm sorry. Fragapati said, I have seen old men who doted more on tongue tied. Let me start again. Fragapati said, I have seen old men who doted more on a grandchild than on a large family they had bred themselves. And it is not a wise provision of our Creator that He bestowed us with such means as enableth us at all times to live over again our past history in the young. That was a question. Let me read it again. And is it not a wise provision of our Creator that He bestowed us with such means as enableth us at all times to live over again our past history in the young? Every hour, we find a new way to remind us of our follies in youth, and also a new channel in which to behold Jehovah's wisdom. Yatanti said, if a man convert his neighbor from evil into good, two great things are accomplished: the triumph of the man and the reformation of the neighbor. If, on the other hand, a man faileth to convert his neighbor from evil to good, two misfortunes have transpired, which are the disappointment of one and the loss of glory to Jehovah. It is a strong man that can recount his own failures and say he glorifieth the Father because thereof. Fragapati said, how shall we measure? This was good. Hold on. I didn't remember the spot. Fragapati said, how shall we measure magnitudes, O Yatanti? Hath not a mortal that hath delivered one drook into light as great a glory as God? Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Facebook is like cutting off. Hold on. Let me just turn off the. Just turn off the hotel Wi-Fi from my phone. Okay. All right, Facebook, y'all back. I just had to turn off the hotel Wi-Fi from my phone because it keeps going in and out. All right, so it's just using my phone's Wi-Fi. All right. Verse 7. Fragapati said, how shall we measure magnitudes, O ye Tanti? Hath not a mortal that hath delivered one drook into light as great a glory as a God that delivereth hundreds of thousands? Is not the one as great in magnitude as the other? According to our worthiness and righteous persistence, no matter what our limit is not this the greatest glory? Jehovah gave to man to first learn to deliver himself, to master himself, to rule himself in the all highest. Okay, I'm gonna read that again. Jehovah gave to man to first to learn to deliver himself, to master himself, to rule himself in the all highest. He who can do this is a great ruler. And in the next time, Jehovah giveth him to rule over a small kingdom, perhaps a drunkard or a wanton, or even over his own family to righteousness. He that doeth this is a great ruler. Is not then man's persistence in righteousness the whole glory of his kingdom? Oh, this is beautiful. Yatanti said, the Father knoweth to try and to try and to try. This is the sum of the good a man doeth. And yet, what man is there in heaven or on earth but can find an apology for the good work he accomplished? Doth not the poor man say, oh, if I had this, what great good I would accomplish? And the rich man maketh the same speech, and the king also. And yet Jehovah hath given a kingdom to each and every one of them. But he who can say, I have done all I could according to my strength and wisdom, rateth amongst the highest of men and gods. Let me read this again. All right. So he's saying it don't matter if you got a little or if you got a lot. What you got is considered your kingdom. And if you rule it well, you consider as high as the highest ruling kingdom with the biggest kingdom, right? Look, verse 8, top of page 191. Yatanti said, the Father knoweth. Let me just go back. I'm going to go back to verse 7. We got to keep it all in context. Listen. Fragapati said, how shall we measure magnitudes, O Yatanti? Hath not a mortal that hath delivered one druk into light as great a glory as a God that delivereth hundreds of thousands? Is not the one as great in magnitude as the other? According to our worthiness and righteous persistence, no matter what our limit is not this the greatest glory? Jehovah gave to man. So first learn to deliver himself, to master himself, to rule himself in the all highest. He who can do this is a great ruler. And in the next time, Jehovah giveth him to rule over a small kingdom, perhaps a drunkard, or a wanton, or even over his own family to righteousness. He that doeth this is a great ruler. Is not then man's persistence in righteousness the whole glory of his kingdom? Yatanti said, the Father knoweth, to try and to try and to try. This is the sum of the good a man doeth. And yet, what man is there in heaven or on earth but can find an apology for the good work he accomplished? Facebook just keep going out. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with this. It's trying to reconnect. I'm sorry, Facebook. This is the first time I've ever had to tell y'all. Y'all might want to jump over to YouTube. It's normally YouTube that's always messing up. Okay, I think everybody here know what the link is for the what you call it for the YouTube video. If you keep messing up, y'all just hop over on YouTube. Okay. Yatanti said, the Father knoweth, to try and to try and to try. This is the sum of the good a man doeth. And yet, what man is there in heaven or on earth but can find an apology for the good work he accomplished? Doth not the poor man say, oh, if I had this, what great good I would accomplish? And the rich man maketh the same speech, and the king also. And yet Jehovah hath given a kingdom to each and every one of them. But he who can say, I have done all I could according to my strength and wisdom, rateth amongst the highest of men and gods. Hear me then, O Fragapati, and thou mayest best understand. Suffer thyself to forget the Suffer thyself to forget all the light of high heaven and to be in a place of darkness where 3,000 million spirits are vagrants scattered far and wide on the corporal earth. Such was Ayosu in his kingdom, but the spirits congregated not together in hells as they did in the east, for they had no association, no gods nor lords. They were perpetual migrants, save such as dwelt with the droops as familiars. And as to the spirits of those that died in infancy, they were taken by the spirits of their fathers and mothers or others and cared for until they also gained sufficient knowledge to serve them as vagrants, and there was the end. And strange to say, all these spirits were without clothes or drapery of any kind, and devoid of shame, neither were they good or evil, nor had they desire for or knowledge of a higher heaven, being content to rove about, to sleep, and to eat. And they had 1,000 languages, or at least 1,000 different kinds of signs and utterances, which they had acquired on earth, but lost and mixed up so that neither lords nor gods could converse with them. Thus I surveyed them and found them before I built this capital, for which reason I came thus centrally amongst them. Know also, O chief, that I travel amongst them with music and with fire and gaudy apparel, and hoped to gain their aspiration. But alas, they neither smiled nor frowned on my fine shows, but vacantly gazed at us, or even fell asleep, whilst our Otivan was paraded before them. Then I came hither and built this capital, and founded Jehovah's throne, whereon thou now honorest me. And then I sent to them, here and there, presents of gaudy attire, in hope to inspire the multitude through the few. But alas, those I attired soon divested themselves of their clothes, preferring nakedness. Thus ended my second failure. After this, which is okay. I just thought about something when I read this, preferring nakedness, right? So, I mean, the thought comes from reading through and studying the New Testament for a while, right? It always seems, I guess this kind of answers a little bit, at least for me, why people who get demon possessed, right? Why they prefer to be naked. This is interesting, right? They'll rip the clothes off. They'll rip the clothes off of you. Think about the seven sons of Sceva, right? Rip the boys ran out of there hollering, screaming, and naked. Oh, you want to act like you really got the power? We're gonna show you got the power, my G. Let me read verse 13 again. Then I came hither and built this capital, and founded Jehovah's throne, whereupon thou now honorest me. And then I sent to them here and there presents of gaudy attire, and hope to inspire the multitudes through the few. But alas, those I attired soon divested themselves of their clothes, preferring nakedness. Thus ended my second failure. After this, I sent 100,000 preachers to them to portray the greater glory of a higher heaven. But alas, they heeded not, or if heeding in a day, would forget all that had been told them, and thus ended the third failure. Then we held a holy council, imploring Jehovah for light and power, and his voice came upon me, saying, Go to their loves, my son, go to mortals, begin thou with Essenes. Then I commanded my host to go and live for a season amongst mortals. And they brought the Essenes to Yatanti under guard of the Asaphs. And the next of kin followed, desiring. Hold on. What? Next of kin followed, desiring. Okay. Oh, I get it. Okay. Let me start verse 16 over. Then I commanded my host to go and live for a season amongst mortals, and they brought the Essenes to Yatanti under guard of the Asaphs, and the next of kin followed, desiring to remain. And I said unto them, Behold, my place is fair, and my people are clothed. Save ye be clothed also, ye cannot dwell with us, nor shall ye more look upon your next of kin, whom I have taken for myself. And for love, there came many mothers and fathers, and brothers and sisters belonging to the recent dead, and they suffered themselves to be clothed, and these were the first in my kingdom. Again, I called my hosts together, and I said unto them, 1,000 lords I must have. I will divide North Gautama amongst my lords, and they shall dwell with mortals, having a sufficiency of ashars to give one to each and every mortal, man, woman, and child. So remember, the ashars are what we call or what we know as guardian angels. As a matter of fact, all the way at the beginning, when it first introduces the ashars, it mentions that. Zoe Betswabu. Okay. Verse 18. Again I called my hosts together, and I said unto them, 1,000 lords I must have. I will divide North Gautama. Remember, North Gautama is North America, but this is the heavenly realm that it's talking about. We're gonna get to the lore after we're done with the top portion, which is pretty long. Again, I called my hosts together, and I said unto them, 1,000 lords I must have. I will divide North Gautama amongst my lords, and they shall dwell with mortals, having a sufficiency of ashars to give one to each and every mortal, man, woman, and child. And whether by natural death or by war, it mattereth not. The the Essenes shall be brought to my kingdom. This I accomplished, providing nurseries and places of entertainment for such as were brought hither. But alas, the tens of thousands of spirits who thus came because of their kin and accepted clothing for the sake of remaining, had little talent to talk or even desire for anything. And at the next holy council, the light came to me, saying, hear the voice of thy creator, O my son, because thou hast been diligent in striving for the resurrection of my children, I am come to thee. Behold, I created man naked and with shame as the foundation of industry. But because this people followed in the Osirian age the abandonment of spirit communication, whilst they were yet mortals, they lost the light of my countenance. Let me read that again. At the next holy council, the light came to me, saying, hear the voice of thy creator, O my son, because thou hast been diligent in striving for the resurrection of my children, I am come to thee. Behold, I created man naked and with shame as the foundation of industry. But because this people followed in the Osirian age the abandonment of spirit communication, whilst they were yet mortal, they lost the light of my countenance. Neither canst thou inspire them to industry, save through clothing the body. But first of all, thou shalt make them ashamed of nakedness. Otherwise, there is no higher resurrection for them. Teach them how to cover themselves up, right? They can't be walking through all naked and stuff. We're changing ages. Cover your butt up, cover them breasts. Tell the men, wear some decent prints where they print not busting through. Be decent. Okay, let me get back to this. Hold on. But because this people follow in the Osirian age the abandonment of spirit communication, whilst they were yet mortal, they lost the light of my countenance. Neither canst thou inspire them to industry, save through clothing the body. But first of all, thou shalt make them ashamed of nakedness. Otherwise, there is no higher resurrection for them. Yeah, because you're gonna be causing everybody else to fall and slob and because they can't focus. They looking at your body. Then I inquired of the Creator, how should I teach them shame? He said, of themselves, to themselves, for themselves. Thou canst do but little, but thou shalt inspire them through mortals. Every plateau shall be 1,000 miles in breadth every way, save the lowest, which shall be 2,000 miles with a rise of 1 degree, so that the plateau shall extend from the earth up to thy kingdom like a stairway, one plateau higher than the other. And thy lords shall provide for the lowest and for the second lowest plateaus, subjective entertainments, subjective teaching, and subjective things in general. Neither shall there be anything real on these two plateaus, save the inhabitants and their food, and the mirrors and lenses and machinery for producing subjectives. And the lower plateau, being on the earth, shall be provided as a mirage, having everything spiritual in appearance as they are corporally on the earth. And it shall be provided with forests and lakes and rivers, and with all manner of animals and bird and fish, and of whatsoever is suitable food for mortals. And the lowest plateau shall be called Hochidawa, signifying happy hunting ground. And thou shalt send word to thy lords, saying, thus saith thy Creator, behold, I have created a good place and called it Hochidawa. Teach ye this to mortals by inspiration, and otherwise, saying also to them, go tell one another, for after death the soul shall go thither in great delight. And ye shall say unto them, save ye wear garments to hide your nakedness, ye shall not enter Hochidawa.
Totally.
All right, man.
What's wrong with you? Love you.
Love you too. I was trying to finish my thought. Try to say, love you too. Okay. Okay, let me read that again. When I was playing with him. And it shall be provided with forests and lakes and rivers. Hold on, where we at? We got 40 minutes. Oh, yeah. We got a couple more verses. We'll be done with this chapter and we'll hop over to the meditation book. Okay. We'll go start at the beginning of verse 25. And the lower plateau, being on the earth, shall be provided as a mirage, having everything spiritual in appearance as they are corporally on the earth. And it shall be provided with forests and lakes and rivers, and with all manner of animals and birds and fish, and of whatsoever is suitable food for mortals. Notice how they separated the animals, birds, and fish from suitable food. And of whatsoever is suitable food for mortals. And the lowest plateau shall be called Hochidawa, signifying happy hunting ground. And thou shalt send word to thy lords, saying, Thus saith thy creator, Behold, I have created a good place and called it Hochidawa. Teach ye this to mortals by inspiration and otherwise, saying also to them, Go tell one another, for after death the soul shall go thither in great delight. And ye shall say unto them, Save ye wear garments to hide your nakedness, ye shall not enter Hauchidawa. Yatanti said, When the lowest plateau was made habitable, covering a large portion of North Gautama, the voice came again, saying, Through thy lords, my son, thou shalt possess all mortals, every man and woman and child, suffering not one of the Druhas to come near them. And behold, I will send upon the land in many places great droughts because of the construction of thy plateau, and these wandering spirits shall not find sustenance save but through thee and thy lords. And as fast as they come, thou shalt oblige them to be clothed or draped about the loins, but thou shalt show preference to such as wear ornaments. Yatanti said, This much have we accomplished, O Fragapati. The foundation of my heavenly kingdom is broad and sure, but as yet I have few subjects to show thee. Fragapati said, Behold, I will take 2 days of rest, and then I will inspect thy places. Proclaim therefore recreation for 2 days. And it's funny that that would say that as we end today, because we won't even be here tomorrow, right? Because remember, the Sabbath rotate for this moon cycle, so we will be back here Wednesday, right? Okay, so we'll pause right here. Page 194. What chapter was this? Chapter 20? We're going to pick up on chapter 20. Okay. All right, y'all. So that was good. So remember, whether you have little or whether you have much, you're being recorded. It's being recorded how you taking care of your kingdom, my G. All right. Harriet, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Okay, y'all. So we paused. We may not. Oh, we have 43 minutes. Okay. Yeah, we at the last portion of this book on page 176, and we end the reading on page 192. We are definitely going to be done with this week, and then we'll start the Initiates of the Flame after the Oahspe reading. And that's a pretty thin book as well, so we'll probably be done, I said, a week or two. Yeah, because you know how I be adding my stories and stuff while we go through. Okay. Page 176. Weathering the storm of uncontrolled thoughts, how to handle the restless mind. Quote, I remove the thunder cloud from the sky when there is a storm with thunder and lightning therein. End quote. What? I'm going to read that again. I remove the thunder cloud from the sky when there is a storm with thunder and lightning therein. Okay, I get it. End quote. From the ancient Egyptian Book of Coming Forth by Day, chapter 17, verses 69 through 70. Oh, he about to explain it. Okay. So I was about to say, wait. Okay, I get it, kind of, I think. Okay, but he about to explain it. In the book of coming forth by day, there is specific reference made to a storm. This is a special utterance or words of power which bear much importance in the control of the mind. As stated earlier, the mind is likened to an ocean, and when there is agitation in that ocean, the waves can be seen, but the bottom cannot. Likewise, when the mind is overpowered by anger, hatred, greed, etc., the transcendental truth cannot be seen. Even when you have made an effort to control your negative psychological traits, they will sometimes come out and overpower you because of past habits and customs which the mind has developed over time. Therefore, a spiritual aspirant must learn to practice detachment even when the mind cannot be controlled to perfection. You must learn to objectively stand back and observe the mind. You may reflect, yes, I feel anger rising and I am taking note of how I am acting. Do not develop anguish or regret or what you have done, but seek to understand what has happened so as to remove the negative behavior. Thank the self for providing you with an opportunity to bring out the negative because it is this negative behavior, and like others, and others like it, which are obstructing your vision of the self. Thus, just as the most powerful storm seems hellish and is the cause of sorrow and pain, but eventually passes away, so too the storms of mental agitation must be endured with patience and faith until they finally pass away when the state of enlightenment has been attained. That was good. There should be understanding for yourself. There should be understanding for yourself as well as for others. Not all people get upset at the same time. Sometimes people who are not upset look down on others, not realizing that they too have their times of emotional tumult. You should not allow yourself to become conceited when you see others in distress because you have been in that position in the past. Many times in human relations, mental upset is accepted as normal behavior. How many times have you heard, don't talk to him now, wait till he calms down, or wait until she comes to her senses, then you can ask her permission to go out? This form of behavior is not normal and should not be accepted. You should strive to control your emotions, and eventually, you should be able to control yourself to the extent of not allowing emotions to distract you or cause you to lose even a moment of life due to mental turbulence or disquietude. The following are diagrams following the I'm sorry. The following are diagrams showing the mental process and how it affects the conscious awareness of the deeper spiritual being and how that in turns affects one's outlook on life and one's concept of self. Okay. So here are three diagrams, right? Okay. All right. So this first diagram right here, I'm gonna read all of these inside of here, right? Okay, so what's being covered up is the self, right? The self, but it's being covered up by all these negative thoughts. And all these negative thought bubbles say regrets, worries, anxieties, longings, I want, I love that, desires, I wish, I hate that, money, yesterday, tomorrow, problems. The thoughts of the unenlightened mind are concerned with the perceived realities which the person has learned and experienced. They are all centered around the individual ego and its desires. These thoughts are like clouds which clutter the mind, obstructing one's perception of the transcendental reality. They constantly agitate the ocean of the mind, and this agitation makes the thoughts seem real. They are like dust particles on a mirror, which prevent a clear view of the image being reflected. Thoughts cloud a person from discovering the innermost reality, the self. The agitation causes the normally clear mental substance to take on various shapes and sizes. These shapes and sizes are called thoughts. When the mind is in the same, when the mind is in this state, it is referred to as being conditioned. Consciousness has assumed the form of opposites, positive and negative, male and female, light and dark, here and there, etc., known as duality. There are names, forms, opposites, conflict, memories, desires, etc., in the mind which are accepted as absolute realities. When there is conditioning of mental substance, there is time and space or relative awareness composed of desires, ideas, memories, past, present, and future, etc. When there is conditioning or duality, there is always limitation because the mind cannot hold all of reality, the universe, and view it in a conditioned form at once. All right, the next diagram is a pretty clear mind that says the self, right? Okay. When the thoughts and desires subside through understanding, detachment, and dispassion, lucidity, and meditation, the thoughts fade, and the innermost self, which was there all the time, becomes the soul and resplendent reality. This state is likened to sleeping when there are no dreams. There is no ego, no subject of who is talking, only pure consciousness, pure existence, pure bliss, and pure peace. When you are in the dreamless sleep state, there are no problems, worries, or ego notions. You have transcended ordinary ego consciousness. This is what brings about the feelings of rest and rejuvenation you experience upon waking up in the morning. However, when you wake, the thoughts and concerns of your individual ego existence rush into the mind again, and these constitute your day to day life. In meditation, you can also transcend ego consciousness, but intentionality. Hold on. In meditation, you can also transcend ego consciousness, but intentionally but intentionally, what? But intentionally. Get it together, Pamela. Okay, let me start over again. In meditation, you can also transcend ego consciousness, but intentionally, day to day. When the mind is in this state, it is referred to as unconditioned because the mental substance is devoid of names, forms, as well as egoism, the notion that I am an individual. Instead, there is a wellness of infinity, eternity, and immortality. Now there is an awareness now there is an awareness that I am the self who is the source of all. There is no awareness of time and space, past, present, or future, only of the eternal present. Duality has been transcended. And the last diagram for the self, and I'll read what's in the head there. Okay, hold on. Okay, so these are the same ones that were at the beginning, but it's given more, right? So it began, and the first one it just said like regrets or I want, I love that, but here it actually fills it out like I regret nothing. In the past, I acted out of ignorance. I want to serve humanity. All my needs are provided for. I am content. Yesterday does not exist. Tomorrow does not exist. I am eternal, immortal. I love all that I am, one with all. I wish good to all. I desire happiness for all. So all those thoughts in the beginning where your mind is agitated and is constantly focused on self, or I want more money, I need new clothes, I need this and I need that. You're taking it and you reframing it and taking it from like selfishly inward to projecting outward. right? I regret nothing. In the past, I acted out of ignorance. I want to serve humanity. All my needs are provided for. I am content. Yesterday does not exist. Or before it had been like, yesterday she pissed me off and I went for her throat. You lucky my husband was there to hold me back, right? Yesterday does not exist. Tomorrow does not exist. I am eternal, immortal. I love all that I am, one with all. No, I'm sorry. I love all. I am one with all. I just read that wrong. The first time I read it wrong. I wish good to all. I desire happiness for all. Okay, in the paragraph under that diagram, it says, having transcended the ego through yoga and meditation, you now see the world not as an individual ego personality, but as the self who is all powerful, majestic, unlimited, supremely blissful, and confident. You can deal with all the problems of life with the awareness that you are being led and sustained by the divine self, and that all situations of life have a divine purpose to give you the opportunity to grow in self knowledge and to serve humanity. Therefore, your desires and concerns are no longer ego based, selfish concerns, but are permeated with a vision of universality, universally, universality. Forgive me, y'all. Universality. Y'all, it's a universalness. Sometimes I get stumped on the words because I be reading all the time. Therefore, your desires and concerns are no longer ego based, selfish concerns, but are permeated with a vision of universality, peace, and contentment. Now there is true willing. This state is known as Makharu, I'm sorry. Now there is true willing. This state is known as Makharu, or true of speech. Okay. Makharu is the ancient Egyptian mystical term signifying that the unconscious is cleansed. The unconscious is cleansed, and that the desires, thoughts, and impulses are true emanations of the self and not of the ego. The faculty of speech is tied directly into the unconscious. This is why people sometimes speak and something comes out which they did not intend. What came out was backed up by their deep rooted impressions, the clouds of negativity, ignorance, and delusion. When the unconscious is cleansed through meditation, the light of the self shines forth, and goodness, sweetness, and harmonious words come forth spontaneously. This is the basis of all spiritual scriptures, and it is the reason why, when an enlightened sage speaks, his or her words are considered to be divinely inspired words of wisdom. Okay. Oh, yeah. 58 minutes. Maybe we'll pause right here today because it's Monday. And I know if I keep reading this next section, yeah, because it's a few different diagrams, and these diagrams, they're a little more involved. And it goes right into explaining the self a little bit more with these involved diagrams. Like over here, it's going to get into all this, like even the whole consciousness and the attitude, and if it's in a wrong place, the outlook on everything, even how it brings the diet into play and how we eat or overeat and all this stuff, right? Okay, since that's a little more involved, we'll pause right here, so we'll have a little bit of time when we come back Wednesday to go over this. Okay, so we'll pause right here. All right, beautiful people. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for us today. That is it. It is Monday, June the 6th, 2022, day 128 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1146. We read pages 187 through 194 in the Oahspe and pages 176 through 179 in the meditation book. I pray that y'all blesses you this week and give you a good, productive week spiritually as well as in the physical, on your job, whatever it is you do. May this be a week of progression and process for you, right? So with that being said, to the baby, you coming to end it? Okay, she putting something on. She's covering herself. Go ahead. So, good news. We found another property. We put in an offer on it Saturday evening. It got accepted. Yesterday, yay. Okay, so look, our realtor called us, right? And so she was like, okay, the seller's agent just called me and they wanted to know, is there anything about our offer that we wanted to change? They said they have 2 offers that they're looking at, and they said they're pretty competitive and they're running neck and neck, and we were one of them. It was like, oh, and so we sitting here like, okay, do you want to change anything? Was it just because we did something that we don't think most people do, that was like, I feel like we probably got it anyway, but do we want to change anything? So we kind of like deliberating back and forth, right? So it was like, okay, so our offer is this. Maybe we should go up maybe $1,000 more. $1,001. Maybe this like the price is right. They just trying to we get the price right? So we said, okay, increase our offer price by $1,001, right? She started laughing. She said, okay, I'm gonna put that. I said, we really serious. Do it just like that. Okay. So when we walk through this particular property, now mind you, as we've been visiting different properties, when we leave from there, there's some kind of name that we've given to that particular property, right? So I told y'all about the Gopher House, right? So that's the Gopher House. Then we got the Cop House. Then we got the basketball house, right? Because they had a basketball court built in already, like in a backyard. So they have this unique name. But this particular house, this one that we looked at, that we put the offer in on, it was weird because we got in there. The kids loved it. There's already like this playland in the back. It was pretty neat. And so the kids were out there, and then we were sitting there while they were outside playing on that as we kind of walked through the house and everything, looking at it. And it's like, it out of all the houses that we looked at, this one had the best, hugest master suite ever that we had out of all the houses we'd ever looked at. Right? I was like, oh, we really like this. And it had a huge loft upstairs, right? So I was like, we really, really like this one. So between between our 2 top picks, we decided to go with this one. And we went with this one, not because it was just way more space and everything, but when we were in there talking, we were just sitting there, and then my realtor sat down, and not our oldest son, but our 18-year-old son Jeremiah, he was there with us. And he was walking through. He's like, and he found a seat and he sat down. Now, mind you, houses that we go and look at, we don't sit on the furniture, right? We don't sit down in there. But when we went in there, it was nicely set up and everything. What? Oh, I gotta put it in. Okay. It was nicely set up, and we was just having a conversation. And then my husband sat down. I was like, there's something about this house. Then finally, we spent more time in this house looking at this and just kind of talking about things. And then finally, I went and sat down. And so we all sitting there, and I'm like, wait a minute. We probably not supposed to be sitting. I didn't say it out loud, but I'm thinking we probably shouldn't be like sitting here like we own this place already, right? But then we was all sitting there. It was just kind of like a piece that kind of just like went through. It was weird. I was like, guys, I said, there is a piece here. And everybody said at the same time, like, yeah, I know, right? And our realtor, we love her. She said, I was sitting here thinking the same. She said, this it's such a peaceful place in here. She said, I can't put my finger on it. She said, but there's something about this place. I was like, yeah. And we was all in there like, yeah. I was like, and so we dubbed that house the peace house, right? And that's the house we put the offer in on.
Mom,
And so, yes, babe.
I didn't like it. The boys.
Tootie.
You have to
There we
look it
go.
out.
Okay, so what you're going to have to do, I'm going to log this out and I'll log you in because I don't remember your thing. You have to wait 1 second. In 1 second, let's end this in like 1 minute and then I'll log in. And so we dubbed that house the peace house, right? And so we was like, okay, so we got done and everything. It was like, you know what? I don't know. But it was that at that point we hadn't made the decision between this house and the basketball house, right? But they were at the top, both, right? But so we were deliberating it, and our realtor said she feel like this is a like HGTV, you know how they go looking at different homes showing and everything. I was like, yeah, that's funny. So on the drive back here, we were just talking about the pros and the cons, but then we just kept going back. I was like, you know what, that I don't know, it's like an overwhelming peace at that house. I was like, and we all felt it, you know. So it was like, you know what, yeah, you're right. We was deliberating. My husband like, well, I really like the basketball house. Yeah, I said, but with the other one, there's literally right across the street. You know, although we could build one in the backyard, we have it would be a little smaller. I said, but until we do, if we decide to go ahead and do, is literally one right there, and the library is literally right across the street as well. I'm like, So back and forth after deliberating, we decided we're gonna go with the Peace House because even the children, you know, there was just like a overwhelming consensus for this particular house, like unsaid, then we said it, and then everybody was like, yeah, you know. So, but anyway, put in an offer on that. She called back. Yes, I'm about to end it, girl. Just give me like 1 more minute. I'm ending it. Let me end the story. Put this on. Put this on. Rub your lips together. So she said, okay, so it's between your offer and another offer. Is there anything you want to change? So we was going back and forth. Okay, maybe should we increase it? We think it's high enough, but our EDM is really higher than normal because you put down like an earnest money deposit of like $1,000, but ours was way more than that. And so we did that to show people whatever we put an offer on, we're super serious about it. I was like, I don't think anybody did one like we did. So we think we okay, but just in case, to push us over the edge, increase our offer by $1,001, like on The Price is Right, right? So she started laughing. She said, okay, I'm gonna say that $1,001. So she hung up, she called the agent back and everything, and she adjusted the contract and all that. Within 15 minutes, they called back. She said, Pamela, James, and she called voice all said, and we just like, because we said if we didn't win this one, we wanted her to immediately stop, girl. We wanted her immediately to take our offer and put it on the basketball house, right? And so she called back about 15 minutes later, voice all sullen and sunken and stuff. She said, Pamela, James, who's that? And we just looked at each other like our hearts dropped, and we just like, she said, Pamela, James, I just talked to the agent. And you got it. And we was screaming. We was like, yes. We was like, actually, I'm sure everybody on this floor heard us. We were so loud that our children in the room across the hall, they came running like, boom, boom, boom. We let them in. It's like, what is going on? I said, we got the Peace House. And they was screaming like, yay. And Bill was like, give me the phone. Let me record a video. I was like, give me my phone. But anyway, so that was the excitement for yesterday. We got the house that we really wanted, and there was like there was consensus that there was peace there, and it was a good property, a really good property, because one also everything is like 100% up to date because the space that they had, it was an in-home childcare there that was vetted by the state. So they had everything new. And there was one thing about the basketball house. The roof was at its life. It was literally at its 20-year life. And then even in there, they said there are some shingles that need to be replaced. So we was going to say, would I offer maybe do a credit towards the roof or whatever? But with the Peace House, the roof was brand new. It was replaced in 2021. Everything was up to code because it was a state certified child care, a home child care inside, and just like everything, even like the water heat and everything was replaced in 2021, right? So I was like, OMG. I was like, this is it. And so what we had said, although even with like the Gopher House, we knew we would have to go into that doing some upgrades and stuff. It was like, well, when we go in, we just gonna gut the whole downstairs. But we didn't really want to, you know. But we could if we wanted to, but we really didn't want to just give up so much cash in the beginning. All right, Bella, I know I'm about to end this. You just want to play it again. Hold on. Okay. But so we said, perfect world, we want everything to be brand new, if not new construction, with the space we need. And the space here is like 3,300, almost 3,400 square feet. Biggest house ever, biggest everything ever within our price, like everything. It hit like all our tick marks, with the exception of a bigger backyard for the backyard oasis we want to build. But still, it's decent. And literally, there's inside the subdivision, they have like a subdivision pool and everything, and they even have a nice little park over there. And the library, y'all know I'm a bookhead. Library is literally right outside the subdivision across the street. So like it hit all our tick marks on our search. All right, I'm done. That's it. I just wanted to share it with y'all. All right, so that's it, y'all. I love y'all. I know I already blessed everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jen, hey girl, hey, thank you, y'all. So we super excited. But yeah, so now we just got to go through the closing process again. So max, I think we'll be here. It could take up to 30 days to close, but I think we're literally done on our loan. We just really have to wait for the appraisal for this property and the home inspection, which we already got scheduled for today. Like we ain't playing no games. All right, okay, too. Let's go ahead and this. I love y'all. I see y'all back here Wednesday morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. And end it. Girl, why you gotta do your face like that? Like,
Mom, my neck is.
your neck is itching. Okay, go ahead. In the video. What? It's this tag that keep coming from the back of your jacket. This what look, we can. That's what you feel, right? Yeah, that's the in the video.
Not that. Want the tropics have something in my hair.
Okay, Tuda. We'll oil your hair and all that stuff in the video. Bye, y'all. See y'all back here Wednesday.
Well, you can do this.
Yep, finish ending that, then I'll log you in. Go ahead. I gotta look up. You gotta end this because I gotta look up your password on my phone, girl. Bye, y'all.